All right. Hello, everyone, and good morning. Today is February 26th, not 26th, 26, 26. Anyway, I just wanted to get on here and do a quick stream on a current event. It turns out it's been something that's been going on for a while, but I guess this week was just my turn. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to be brief. I don't want to spend my entire Sunday in front of a screen. And yeah, I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm going to tie that into a book I'm reading. And if you own a Kia or a Hyundai car, and this hasn't happened to you yet, a Kia, a Hyundai, or a Hyundai car. And if this hasn't happened to you yet, maybe this will save you some pain. So I'm gonna play the intro, and then I'm gonna jump in, and then I'm gonna jump off. All right, let me find my intro here. Yeah, here it is. Hey, let me know who's watching. Please hit that like button. The likes are free. The super chat is live. If you want to super chat me something, and if I say something here that helps you out, and you want to make a donation, you can use the super chat, or you could use the Cash App or PayPal, which are here. This may save you. This may save you from having to pay your insurance deductible. Shout out to our insurance czar, Alonzo Hall, the all-star advisor. But when things like this happen, even if it's not your fault, and assuming you have your insurances in place, you're going to have to pay your deductible. Anyway, I'm going to get into all that. I'll see you on the other side of the intro. All right. Good morning, everyone. Aquateki, thank you for being here. Aquateki, I think you did a comment under my short yesterday on my STEM channel, and I do intend to look up how they're doing this thing with the USB drive because it turns out that there's a way there's a way they can plug whatever it is they're using into the USB drive of your car and then reactivate the car that way. That's what the officer, I think the officer told me that when he came to do the police report, and when we were towing my car to the Kia dealer, me and the tow truck driver, we were talking about this as well. So I want to look into how they're doing this because it's fascinating. So Aquateki says my first car was a Kia, a 2000 Sportage. He says dust off your old club lock if you have one and bring it out of retirement. Yep, I've heard a lot about that as well. That's one of the strategies for deterring these guys from doing this. Professor Black Ops Security for the People says I did a cyber video on it to SMH. I'm going to take a look at your library, Professor Black Ops, to see what you created on this. Yeah, so we'll start with some story time. We'll start with some story time. Thursday, for my good government job, I am hybrid. For those of you who don't know, there are some people who are working 100% remotely, and then there are people who are working a blend of going into the office and then working remotely as well. And then there are some people who I think have been shoved all the way back to going into their workplaces 100% of the time. So, for my good government job, and please keep letting me know what you guys think there in the chat. I'm hybrid, so I'm in twice a pay period. And maybe I shouldn't be saying this over social media because they say you shouldn't be telling people where you are, what you're doing, because they will plan around where you are and what you're doing. Anyway, I was away from my home. And it's funny because that morning I had a very, very early meeting with some overseas stakeholders. And then I left my place maybe 10:30 in the morning. And I went into my workplace and I was working on projects there. And it was Thursday. So I had my mind set on going to happy hour after work. I was going to go have a glass of wine and recline back and people watch and think about the week and think about the next week and think about the upcoming weekend. Here in the DMV, it was CIAA tournament time. So I was thinking about going to Baltimore for something, or maybe a gathering, or maybe to catch one of the basketball games. And then around 2:30, I get a text and a call from one of my neighbors. So shout out to my mother who told me it's good to know your neighbors and it's good to have relationships and it's good to be cordial with your neighbors because your neighbors will alert you to things. They'll pull your coat on things. They will warn you of things. And in this instance, my neighbor, she said, "Hey, did you know that your one of the back windows on your car is busted in?" And I said, "Wait a minute. No, I didn't know that." She said, "Yeah, your window's busted in. I was going out to my vehicle. She parked her vehicle right next to mine. And I noticed that there was glass on the ground and that your window was busted in. So now you switch into emergency mode." I emailed my boss. I said, "Hey, I have a crisis at home. My car was vandalized. Is it okay if I go finish up my workday at home?" She said, "Yeah, go ahead." So I get home. I'm on the metro. I'm thinking about what I'm going to see when I get there. And I'm thinking, what did I leave in the car that someone would want? What was in there? And I figured I had one of those chargers where you can plug your computer in. It's an AC adapter. So I said, maybe they wanted that. And so I get home And this is what I saw when I walked up. The car was still there, and this is what I saw. There's the window, the passenger side rear window was busted in. And then when I peeked inside the car, uh, I noticed that there was a casing laying on the floor, and I'm thinking, okay, what is this casing? Why is this laying on the floor? Where does this even go to? And why do they leave it here on the back floor of my car? And then I looked up to the front of the car and I saw where the casing came from. The casing, that was the casing for my key ignition. So you could see the wires hanging there. You could see the ignition hanging there. That's where you put the key in. And if you look at that picture closely, guys, you could see that the radio is still on. So I don't know. Well, obviously, they tried to start the car because they activated the electronics. I don't know if they couldn't drive the car away because it's a stick, right? I I don't know if the alarm was going off and in the process of them trying to uh, plug in their USB and hotwire the car, they just at some point just said, you know what, this is taking too long and just ran. I don't know. But I noticed that the radio was still on. And as, when I peeked in, you could still hear something beeping and chirping and being active. And that was the electronics in my car. And that's when I realized, yeah, they tried to start it. They were trying to take the car. They didn't want something inside the car. They were trying to take the car. Okay. So that was my Thursday. So yeah, so now you're in emergency mode. You're in, call the police, get a report mode. You're in contact the insurance mode. And so my first inclination was to call the county police. And I did that. I called 911. It took them forever to come. They didn't get around to me until almost 10:30 that night. It was a warm day on Thursday. And when the officer finally came, he said, when it gets warm, people come outside and things start happening. So we just couldn't get over here any earlier. So I didn't bite his head off when he came. I was thankful that he came and initiated the report because your insurance wants the report. After getting frustrated with them not showing up within a couple of hours, I just went upstairs and initiated the claim. Geico was very nice. The rep was very cordial, and I was taken back to about a month and a half ago when I made my 6-month premium payment, and I noticed that the premium went up. And the reason Geico came because I blasted them on Twitter. One of the things they said was that there's been an uptick in deaths and there's been an uptick in activity, and I didn't really know what they were talking about. And well, now I know what they were talking about. So Friday, so I had to put a garbage bag over my window to try to keep it closed. The car battery died because whatever they did, the battery was still, those electronics were still operating. So the back window, someone could climb in there. Someone could have came and taken the car if they had a vehicle of their own. They just had to take the emergency brake off and take the car out of gear. So the car was still vulnerable. So I'm thinking, okay, someone going to come get the car in the middle of the night. So Friday was spent trying to get the car towed to the dealership. There were a few hiccups there. That finally happened. And when I got to the dealership, the Kia dealership, they said, yeah, we've had a lot of these. We've had a lot of these lately. We have a lot of these cars here. He said, Mr. Dunbar, and unfortunately, The parts are on back order, and we don't know when we're going to get all the parts. So it could be a little while before we're able to fix your car. Okay. That's fine because your insurance, there's a provision in most car insurances for a rental car. So you have to find a rental car for, hopefully, you don't exceed that amount, but you might, depending upon how long it takes for them to fix your car. And then that was a whole mess trying to get a rental car because the enterprise down the street from where I live, they weren't going to be able to get me into something until tomorrow. So I would have been, so that's a weekend without a rental car. All my plans are overturned, and you just all of a sudden in this pickle because someone decided they wanted to vandalize your car and maybe steal it and maybe take it for a joyride or maybe take it and dump it somewhere or crash it. Your life is just overturned because of someone's dumb and selfish decisions and inclinations. Aquateki says, and that's right. This is what's going on right now. This is in the current environment. The supply chain problems exist. And during COVID and then in the aftermath of COVID, I don't know if we're still in it, but I thanked the Lord or the universe that I had a car because I know that it was hard for people to get cars uh, during the pandemic. And there are times when I said, "Oh, I got a car just in time." But when stuff like this happens, you realize, okay, I'm not totally safe because if someone vandalizes my car or someone wrecks my car or steals my car, now I'm in the supply chain mess with everyone else. So it's almost like no one is safe. No one is safe in any of this stuff. You may be doing well. You may be doing what you're supposed to be doing. You may have made all the right decisions. You may be living your life like a model citizen, but that doesn't mean trouble's not going to come find you. And that doesn't mean that someone else is going to do something dumb and stupid that's going to affect you. So that's what happened well, 3 days ago. It's not something I planned for. It's not something I planned for. And when I looked out over the next 2 to 3 months, I had plans. A bunch of my money, shout out to Sheed and Alonzo Hall. And I just kind of saw where things were going and I had ideas for what I was going to do. And then someone comes and does something stupid and selfish like this. And now you kind of got to put the pieces back together. I told my mother, I'm not angry. I'm not angry because I think if they had taken the car and if the car was missing, I think I'd probably be a little more angry. But fortunately, they didn't take it. And there were items in that car too. There were items in my car. There were tools. There were some resources for my book project, some priceless resources for my book project that if I lost them, I wasn't going to get those back. Sometimes you look at things in your car and you say, you know what, I need to take that out and take that upstairs. I'd been looking at those items for weeks and I just didn't move them. So if they had taken the car, those items would have been gone. My iPod Nano would have been gone, and that would have brought a whole another level of stress if they had taken the car. So fortunately, they didn't do that. So that's what happened this week, and that's what this stream is based upon. I'm going to pull in some other things, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Yeah, Alonzo, I just shouted you out. Yeah, I'm sure in the insurance world, you heard about the Kia and the Hyundai car thefts. This epidemic that's going on. I'm going to call it an epidemic because it is like a spreading disease. And Alonzo, I'm sure you know that. I have an article here. I'm going to read this one that some of the insurance carriers they're backing out of insuring some Kias and Hyundais now because they don't want to get swept up in this whole thing. And I'm fortunate that, well, when I purchased this car, or Shout out to LJ from Savings Minus Debt. When I started financing this car, this wasn't going on. So Geico took me on, but right now, some of the insurance carriers are saying, we don't want any part of this. So a lot of things are coming to a head right now. Good morning, really, Chris. Always good to see you. Thank you for stopping through and for being here. So what have I learned? Well, you can gather most of my subs, all my subs are smart people. You guys can gather what I've learned from the things that I've told you. Aquateki says, rumor has it some carriers are refusing to insure. Yeah, Kias and Hyundais. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So you all can piece together and deduce what I've learned from this whole pickle thus far. But yesterday, again, if you haven't, please hit that like button. The likes are free and help with the engagement. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. If you're watching on the playback, please leave a comment underneath. So I tried to be a good Samaritan yesterday, and I went once my mind finally started to clear up. I went to my Facebook network and I tried to warn some people that this is going on. Some people said, "Yeah, I've heard about that." Some people have said, "I'm sorry that happened." Other folks said, "Yeah, that's been going on for a while. That's not new. Yeah, that happened. That's been happening since the summertime." And it was a buddy of mine, David, the controversial counselor. He's the one who brought the term the Kia Boys up to me, and I said the Kia Boys, and apparently this whole thing with the Kia Boys has started in Milwaukee. I, I remember hearing about the Kia Boys. I mean, there's so much news and there's so much information swirling around that sometimes you hear things and they don't stick in your gray matter until they come back up. Well, this came back up, and I heard about the Kia Boys, but I just didn't. It just didn't register until now, until it was now my turn to get involved in this. So it turns out this has been going on since the summertime. This has been happening since the summertime, through the fall, through the holiday season, and I guess now was just my turn. It was just my turn. And this is happening somewhat prevalently in the DMV. The police officer told me, based upon where I live right near the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. For those of you who are not from the DMV, it's a bridge that goes from uh, Fairfax County over to Prince George's County, where National Harbor is. The officer told me that there are a lot of guys coming over from Maryland looking for cars to steal, and they steal them and they take them back over to Prince George's County. Okay. So there's just a lot of this going on right now, and I guess it was just my turn. So TikTok, social media, the Kia Boys. It turns out there was a TikTok challenge over this. So this all made me think about something I presented here. This all made me think about someone I presented here for Black History Month, and some would say, Dr. Dunbar, why did you present Malcolm Gladwell for Black History Month? But Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called The Tipping Point. The Tipping Point. This is one of his older books, but I started reading it, and basically what The Tipping Point is about, it's about how movements and epidemics get started. So the passage that I started reading, I'm still early in the book. They were talking about Apoteki just mentioned Baltimore. he highlighted the spread of syphilis in Baltimore. So he broke down how that happened and why at this certain point the syphilis started spreading as quickly as it did in Baltimore during that stretch of time. So I made some notes here, and I thought that in the spirit of this having started 6 months ago, I just kind of put two and two together and said, okay, well, the tipping point for this was last summer. So what happened last summer? What was going on in our country and in our communities and our neighborhoods that would cause something like this to happen? So I made a slide here, and we're gonna go over this really, really quickly. I have two articles, and then I'm gonna wrap this stream up. So I named this slide Malcolm Gladwell's three tipping point factors for epidemics. This applies to syphilis. This applies to other things that I'm sure he's going to describe in the book. Okay. And you can find videos of Malcolm talking about the tipping point and the principle here on YouTube. But so the first factor is the people who transmit infectious agents. So in this instance, the infectious agent is an idea. We can go vandalize Hyundais and Kias with standard traditional key ignitions. We could use USB drives to activate the cars, and we could take them on joyrides. We could crash them. We could take the parts out. That's your infectious agent. That's your idea. Someone came to that epiphany, and that's step one. That was the first factor. Step two, the infectious agents themselves. Okay. So that's the idea. And then you need people to transmit the idea. You need someone to create the idea, and then you need someone to transmit the idea. And then the third one is the environment in which the infectious agent is operating. So, what's unique about our current environment? What would what would start something like this, and what would allow such reckless ideas to proliferate? Well, for one thing, we know that our country is in hard economic times. Okay, the pandemic brought on some hard economic times, and you can argue that we were already in hard economic times, and the pandemic made it worse. So you have a population of haves and have-nots, and things have arguably separated even further. Shout out to Dr. Shauna ATN. I did tag her in my short. If you're unsubscribed to Dr. Shauna's channel, she talks about all of the craziness and the foolishness that's happening out there, and how desperate people are getting, and how not to get swept up in all of it. Shout out to Dr. Patrick Dix. He's covering a lot of things on his channel as well in terms of how to survive as the prices of things are going up and up and up and up and up. There are people who are not going to be able to afford these things. But the current environment, so there are economic hard times, right? I'm going to start making content on this book really, really shortly. Men Without Work. I'm almost done. There's been a silent uh, epidemic of prime aged working men who are not in the workforce. They're not going to work. They're sitting at home in front of screens like this all day watching YouTube and playing games. So there are a lot of men who are not working. So they say the an idle mind is the devil's playground. So there are a lot of men not working right now. So that's part of the environment. But what's another huge part of our environment right now? Another huge part of our environment right now is this: social media. Social media. Social media makes it so that a person can come up with an idea. They can They can hit share, they can hit retweet, and then that idea can spread like wildfire. Let's go vandalize and steal Hyundais and Kias. The one platform that is not on this slide, I did create this slide pre TikTok, but apparently there was and is a Kia Hyundai car theft challenge on TikTok. Okay, so I do some TikToking. If you all are on TikTok, please go and find me. You can follow me there. I don't talk about anything or do anything controversial. I have to protect my image and the images of those around me. So I'm not on there doing anything foolish. But before I joined TikTok, I saw some of the challenges. I think there was a bucket challenge, something with water where people were dousing themselves in water or dunking themselves in water. So there was that challenge. But there was also the silhouette challenge. If you saw the silhouette challenge, I don't have a big crowd in here, but if you saw the silhouette challenge, give me a one in the comments in the chat section right now. If you saw the silhouette challenge, let me know if you saw that. Who here saw the silhouette challenge on TikTok? Aquateki says, ice bucket challenge. Yep, Professor Black Ops saw the silhouette challenge. Really, Chris saw the silhouette challenge and some of that stuff I was looking at. This is before I got on TikTok. I was looking at some of those and I was like, wow. And so you saw it was mostly young black girls who were doing it, but you were looking at some of those, and I wasn't looking for it. People were posting it on Twitter, and you're looking at it, and you're looking at it, and you're like, wow, wow, wow. But the point is, someone comes up with an idea. Someone says, "This is a good idea, everyone. Let's do this." And then you have all these hundreds of thousands and maybe millions of people saying, "Yeah, I'm doing the challenge. Yeah, let's yeah, let's I can do it too. I'm going to do the challenge too." So all of that is an environment. All of that creates an environment for which this type of foolishness can grow legs and proliferate. Akoteki, you never saw the silhouette challenge. All right, we'll do a quick Google search. I'm sure that it will come up. Social media, it's a two-edged sword. If you're in business of some sort, these tools can be very, very valuable. I'm an aspiring author, so social media can be a valuable tool for spreading your content and giving people exposure to your content. But these things can also be very, very dangerous if you misuse them or if you inspire whole flocks and legions of people to do something stupid, right? People who are desperate, people who are destitute, people who have nothing else to do. Those are people who are very, very vulnerable to getting hooked into something like this. And that sucks for the rest of us who are going on about our day, just trying to do what we're supposed to do, just trying to pay the bills and just trying to be responsible. If those other people get motivated to do dumb stuff, then everybody has to pay for it in some way, shape, or form. And before I get to these articles, I was telling my mother that I did wonder what I would have done if I was home. What if I had heard? Well, I would have. Well, what would I have done? Would I have grabbed my baseball bat and gone downstairs? I don't. I'm currently not practicing my Second Amendment right, but you wonder when you experience violence, or when someone close to you has experienced violence, or when you've been robbed or your property's been damaged. You do wonder, what would I have done if I was there? what would have happened. Okay. And that's what's valuable about what Dr. Shana talks about, because she talks about how to navigate these types of situations should you find yourself involved in one of them or around one of these people who is doing things like this. Okay, so I'm going to read these are two short pieces. This has been going on for a while. The tipping point for this was back in the summertime, sometime, and this has been going on for a while. Some people have not gotten their vehicles back. Some people's vehicles have been permanently damaged. Some people's vehicles are at the dealerships like mine, waiting on the parts. So Reynolds says keep your security options undercover. Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is, now I understand the importance of having those security cameras around your dwelling, because the police, they did ask about that, and my neighbor did ask about that. Does anyone have a camera up so that we could see who it was and what time they actually did it? So now I understand the importance of having those digital cameras up around your dwelling. Okay, Akuteki says I googled it, the silhouette challenge. Yep, when that was going on, and if you were on Twitter or some other place where they were sharing that footage, they were probably sharing it on Instagram too. That was those were mostly younger Black girls and women participating in that silhouette challenge. Those were some very, very provocative images, but people want to be a part of the group. People want to be a part of the herd. People want to do what's trending, and they want to be associated with what's trending. That matters today. That matters now. That's the era we're living in. So before I read these articles, they're very, very short. Once again, Malcolm Gladwell's three tipping point factors for epidemics: the people who transmit infectious agents, the infectious agents themselves, the environment in which the infectious agent is operating. And some of these things you wonder, who comes up with this stuff? Who's sitting around coming up with a silhouette challenge? Who's sitting around coming up with, let's go out and break into Kias and Hyundais and rob them? Who's coming up with ice bucket challenges? Who's coming up with this stuff? Who has time to sit around and think about this stuff? Really Chris says, do you have the Next Door app? I do not, but that's something I will be looking into at this point. I understand now in today's age why it's important to have that type of app and device around one's home. Okay, this was back in September of 2022. So this has been going on for a little while. This is short. I'm going to read it. And then there's one since Alonzo joined us. Well, I was going to read this even before Alonzo joined us, but the insurance carriers, they're kind of taking steps to protect themselves as well during this madness. Tell people in your circle who have these cars, tell them, look out for this. This is happening. Let people, yeah, tell people this is happening. Hyundais, Kias are easy targets amid boom in vehicle thefts. This was published on September 22nd, 2022. It's about 5 months later, and it's still going on. There's an image of the club on a steering wheel. Aquateki mentioned the club. When I was in my teens, the club was a big deal. And then I think the logic was, well, thieves can just take a hacksaw and saw through the club. So what's the big deal? So Now, one of the strategies for combating this is to bring the clubs back. So things go full circle. Alonzo Hall says, yeah, they're backing off the risk. They won't completely remove themselves from the arena, but they will add to the cost of insurance. Yeah. When it comes to theft, bargain priced vehicles manufactured by Kia and Hyundai, now viral muscle cars and luxury SUVs as top targets. Uh, a Highway Loss Data Institute analysis of 21 insurance claims shows. Let me read that again. That read kind of weird. When it comes to theft, bargain priced vehicles manufactured by Kia and Hyundai now rival muscle cars and luxury SUVs as top targets. A Highway Loss Data Institute analysis of 2021 insurance claims show. Okay, it makes a difference when you put that word rival in there. Among newer models, whole vehicle theft claims were highest for the Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat relative to its numbers on the road over 2018 to 2022. But among 2015 to 2019 model year vehicles, theft claims were nearly twice as common for Hyundai and Kia vehicles as a group as for all manufacturers, according to the HLDI report. Car theft spiked during the pandemic, said HLDI Senior Vice President Matt Moore. These numbers tell us that some vehicles may be targeted, especially because they're fast or worth a lot of money, and others because they're easy to steal. In May 2015 to 19, Hyundai and Kia vehicles lack electronic immobilizers that prevent thieves from simply breaking in and bypassing the ignition. The feature is standard equipment in nearly all vehicles of that vintage made by other manufacturers. I don't know. My vehicle is slightly beyond 2019. So that might be why they couldn't take it. That might be why they couldn't steal the vehicle because maybe my vehicle has an immobilizer and maybe they thought it didn't. But I don't know. I'll have to look that up. Our earlier studies show that vehicle theft losses plunged after immobilizers were introduced, said Moore. Unfortunately, Hyundai and Kia have lagged behind other automakers in making them standard equipment. Immobilizers were already standard on 62% of models from other manufacturers in model year 2000. But even in model year 2015, when immobilizers were standard on 96% of other manufacturers' vehicles, they were standard on only 26% of Hyundai and Kia vehicle models. If it doesn't have an immobilizer, it does make it somewhat easier to steal, said Daryl Russell, a former auto theft investigator who is now director of operations vehicles at the National Insurance Crime Bureau. After 2021, the comparative ease went viral on social media. So this is spreading the infectious agent. In 2021, that comparative erase, I'm sorry, in 2021, that comparative ease went viral on social media. In one of the earliest affected states, Wisconsin, the fad caused overall losses from Hyundai Kia thefts. The amount paid on theft claims per insured vehicle per year to soar to more than 30 times the 2019 level. An insured vehicle year refers to one vehicle insured for 1 year, two vehicles insured for 6 months, and so forth. Hyundai Motor America is concerned about the recent rise in auto thefts of certain I'm sorry. Hyundai Motor America is concerned with it's Sunday morning. Hyundai Motor America is concerned about the recent rise and auto thefts of certain Hyundai model vehicles. The company said in a statement, while all of our vehicles meet or exceed federal motor vehicle safety standards, unfortunately, our vehicles have been targeted in a coordinated effort on social media. Kia also said their vehicles meet federal standards. The company added that criminals are seeking vehicles solely equipped with a steel key and turn to start ignition system. And the majority of Kia vehicles in the United States are equipped with a key fob and push button start system that makes them more difficult to steal. Russell said the joyriding videos posted on social media and the method employed by the thieves suggests that most Hyundai and Kia vehicles are stolen only to be abandoned later. When you forcibly break the ignition, you're causing so much damage that it's not easy to re-VIN and resell the vehicle on the open market, Russell said, referring to thieves who replace vehicle identification numbers with fake ones or substitutes from salvaged vehicles. HLDI tracks whole vehicle theft by monitoring theft claims under comprehensive insurance that mirror the dollar value of the vehicle covered by the policy. It also defines the most stolen vehicles differently from the NICB and law enforcement agencies, measuring the frequency of theft by the number of claims per 1,000 insured vehicle years. This accounts for the fact that all other things being equal, vehicles that are more common will be stolen more often. By that metric, late model variants of Dodge Charger, Dodge Challenger, and Infiniti Q50 have consistently had some of the highest whole vehicle theft claim frequencies for nearly a decade. But the Hyundai Accent, Kia Rio, and both two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive versions of the Kia Sportage all climbed into the top 20 in HLDI's latest whole vehicle theft report. Okay, this is the ending. Let me see what you guys are saying. Floyd Holt says, "Here I am thinking about Kia, thinking about getting a Kia, LOL." Aquateki says, "I suppose it's too much to ask criminals to read the VIN plate to determine if the vehicle is worth their time." I know, right? Alonzo says, we've got three of the four horsemen in the building. Nice. Okay, this one is almost done. The insurance article is short. Based on news reports and police advisories, Hyundai and Kia thefts have continued steadily, if not accelerated, in 2022. Police in Grand Rapids, Michigan, for instance, say there were nearly four thefts or attempted thefts per day between May 1st and July 7th in that city. Beginning in June last year, Hyundai and Kia owners in Illinois, Iowa, Kentucky, Missouri, and Wisconsin have filed class action lawsuits against the sister companies, which have made immobilizers standard on their newest models and taken action to address the vulnerable vehicles already on the road. For example, both manufacturers are working with local police departments to make steering wheel locks available to affected owners. Hyundai also says it has identified a security kit it believes will help. The kit will be available for purchase and installation at Hyundai dealerships and other authorized installers beginning in October. Immobilizers are standard on all Hyundai vehicles built after November 1st, 2021, and immobilizers were installed on all 2022 Kia models and trims either at the beginning of the model year or as a running change. The NICB emphasizes that professional thieves can steal any car, but advises owners to take a layered approach to protect their vehicles in line with their budget and perception of risk. Along with steering wheel, brake pedal, brake and wheel locks, it's possible to install fuse cutoffs and kill switches, as well as aftermarket immobilizer systems. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about if my car doesn't have one, is there a way that I can get an immobilizer put on my car? It looks like there is a way to do that. Alonzo says, I'm going to wrap this up soon. He says, I'm going live today for my Black History Month episode a bit later today, folks. Okay, so check that out if you haven't. If you're not subbed to Alonzo, consider subbing to Alonzo. Speaking of Alonzo, I'm going to take us out with a discussion on insurance because the insurance companies they have taken steps to protect themselves from this as well. So if you're in the uh, the market to buy a car, this is something to think about and consider. This one is entitled, this was written recently. Major car insurance companies drop coverage on some Hyundai and Kia vehicles after theft issues. So that means they're not refusing covering new car purchases. They're dropping people who are already covered. I hope this doesn't happen to me. Okay. This was written by Celine Martin on January 30th and it was updated on February 2nd. Okay, this is a short one, I promise. It should be a short one. Alonzo, is that legal to drop people like that? Ike, Ike, I'm going to shoot you an email shortly so we can talk about a collab on my STEM channel. I have not forgotten. Things have been a little bit busy and a little bit chaotic on my end. This is an example. All right. Let's see. Progressive and State Farm have dropped some older Hyundai and Kia vehicles due to their lack of anti-theft features. According to the companies and multiple reports, the move comes after social media posts showed how to start certain Kia and Hyundai cars without the use of a key, prompting theft warnings from police. James Bell, a spokesperson for Kia, said Monday the insurance company's move impacts certain Kias built between 2011 and 2021 that are equipped with a steel key to insert and turn to start the ignition. Ira Gabriel, a Hyundai spokesperson, hoped the actions would be temporary, he said in a Monday email to USA Today, but did not specify which vehicle years were affected. What State Farm is saying, State Farm said in a statement to USA Today, the company has temporarily stopped. State Farm said in a statement on USA Today, the company has temporarily stopped accepting new customer applications in some states for certain model years and trim levels of Hyundai and Kia vehicles because theft losses have increased dramatically. The company said the move was part of an attempt to assess risk and impact of excess claim costs on its customers. Remember, I told you all my insurance premium went up about $100 at the beginning of this year. One of the reasons Geico gave was increased theft. Insurance competitor Progressive announced a similar move to CNN and Money.com. During the past year, we've seen theft rates for certain Hyundai and Kia vehicles more than triple, and in some markets, these vehicles are almost 20 times more likely to be stolen than other vehicles. Company spokesperson Jeff Sybil told CNN. In response, in some geographic areas, we have increased our rates and limited our sale of new insurance policies on some of these models. Which areas are impacted by the move? Neither the insurance companies nor the car makers told USA Today which cities or states are impacted by the move targeting some Hyundai and Kia vehicles. CNN reported that the insurance companies have stopped offering new policies in cities such as Denver and St. Louis. Theft claims nearly twice as common for older Hyundai and Kia vehicles. One organization that studies vehicle insurance data, the Highway Loss Data Institute, previously claimed both Hyundai and Kia vehicles lack anti-theft technology, making them more susceptible to thievery. In September, the Highway Loss Data Institute did an analysis of 2021 insurance claims and said both Hyundais and Kias are easy targets. Among 2015 to 2019 vehicles, theft claims were nearly twice as common for Hyundai and Kia vehicles than all other manufacturers. And it's funny, when I got my Kia, I thought I was doing good because I said, okay, I'm getting this vehicle. It's not that expensive relative to others. I have a zero interest rate loan. This is a win-win. But I guess there are holes in everything. This is almost done, guys. Please bear with me. The reason the Institute said is likely because both companies sell vehicles that don't have electronic immobilizers to prevent thieves from driving off with the cars. Thieves are able to break in, bypass the ignition, the researcher said. They're able to break in and bypass the ignition. Calling anti-theft capabilities standard equipment on nearly all vehicles of that vintage made by other manufacturers, the Highway Loss Data Institute said Hyundai and Kia have both been slow to add the cautionary features. Our earlier studies show that vehicle theft losses plunged after immobilizers were introduced, said HLDI Senior Vice President Matt Moore in September. Unfortunately, Hyundai and Kia have lagged behind other automakers in making them standard equipment. Engine immobilizers are now standard on all Hyundai vehicles produced as of November 2021 and have long been standard equipment on all Hyundai vehicles with push button ignitions, Gabriel said, adding that the car maker offers new safety features aimed at preventing thefts. See what you guys are saying here. Please hit that like button if you're new and if you just came in. Floyd, let's see. Alonzo Hall says, even though the major carriers are dropping people, the smaller surplus lines companies and local regional companies will pick up the coverage. That's good to know. Alonzo said it's sort of a way to help smaller, lesser known carriers grow to major players. Floyd Holt says it's getting rough out here. These are stealing converters off all cars too. That was something else my neighbor said. She kept talking about the catalytic converters. She kept saying the catalytic converters. They're stealing the catalytic converters. So that's happening as well, it seems. Aquateki says, I can understand not insuring new purchases of affected vehicles, but for people who own them before the problem, they should be grandfathered in. He says, I think everyone's premium went up this year regardless of what you own. And then Floyd says, my insurance policy went up due to theft. I have a 2019 GMC Canyon. Okay, let me finish this up. Thank you guys for commenting. Please continue to comment and to let us know what you know about this craziness. Car manufacturers respond to insurance policy changes. Gabriel also said Hyundai has taken steps to reduce the theft issues, including a free software update beginning next month. Hyundai is also providing free steering wheel locks as available to select law enforcement agencies across the country for distribution to local residents who own or lease affected models, Gabriel wrote. Owners may also bring their vehicles to a local Hyundai dealer for the purchase and installation of a customized security kit. The kits are available for purchase and installation at Hyundai dealerships and CompuStar authorized installers across the country. They start at $170, and there are also charges for installation. Kia said in a statement that the company is testing enhanced security software for vehicles that didn't come with immobilizers originally. The company plans to make software upgrades available for most affected vehicles by mid 2023. Both of those articles are in the description box below, and it seems to be happening everywhere. I wanted to read an article from the Buffalo News. Buffalo's my hometown, but the Buffalo News, they put that article behind the paywall, and I don't have a subscription. So everyone, that's what I wanted to say. I this kind of broke from my Black History Month theme, though it did apply to my Malcolm Gladwell content. I'm going to show this slide one more time. And this is a bit, well, I consider this a bit of an epidemic. It started small, and then at some point it reached its tipping point to where it's happening everywhere. So, from the book The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell, I called this slide Malcolm Gladwell's three tipping point factors for epidemics. So, the people who transmit infectious agents. So, this idea started with someone, okay? The infectious agents themselves, so the ideas in this instance, and the environment in which the infectious agent is operating. Okay, so there are a lot of desperate people out there. There are a lot of prime age men not at work. There are a lot of layoffs. There's arguably arguably lots of broken families right now, and a lot of idle hands. And there are a lot of people looking at screens and looking at social media. And then once someone puts an idea out there on social media, whether it's one of these platforms or now TikTok, bad ideas, which seem like good ideas to idle hands and idle minds, those bad ideas can spread like wildfire. And then the rest of us are left to figure out what to do and how to respond. I'm going to read a few more of these and then I'm going to wrap up. I managed to talk a whole hour by myself, which is not easy to do. It's not easy for me to do. Let's see. Alonzo says Aquateki people are grandfathered in, but due to the risk to the insurance carriers can drop an entire class of risk. Aquateki says, I see. Good to know. Alonzo. Alonzo says a good carrier to check out now is one called Haggerty. Alonzo's dropping game on us. Ray Alexander, good morning. Well, good afternoon, Ray Alexander. Alonzo says they normally insure supercars and classic show cars. They may be picking up slack for the major carriers and take the risks with Hyundai and Kia. Salute to Ray Alexander. Greetings, Ray Alexander. All right, everyone, I'm going to wrap this one up. It's Sunday, and I have some other things to do, some other things that I need to do. Thank you to those of you who came in and humored me on this. This is something that's going on today. This is something that I got roped into this week. So I had heard about it in my periphery. I had heard Kia boys and Kia car thefts in Wisconsin, and I'd heard about that, but until it hits home, it doesn't always become real. Ray Alexander says, Dr. Dunbar, since you were previously a client of since you were previously a client of KS, for those of you who don't know, that's Kevin Samuels. When you purchase your next vehicle, will you consider the status impact of the vehicle you choose? So, Ray Alexander, I think you're asking, am I going to try to get a BMW or a Mercedes Benz or Audi or something much more prestigious than a Kia Forte? That depends, Ray Alexander, on what my margins are. I come from a family of simple people, and if we don't need it, we tend not to get it. And then the other danger, well, yeah, getting high priced luxury stuff. The danger to getting that stuff is that people will see you and may prey upon you for those items. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing. I Okay. So Ray, we're going down the social class road now, which I guess is your wheelhouse and your alley, your preferred wheelhouse and alley. He says, will you choose an upscale foreign vehicle befitting your status as a PhD and a high level federal professional? Alonzo, this is a stream for us and Sheed, me, you, and Sheed right here. Alonzo, if you're still here, let me know what you think about all this. These questions that Ray is asking me. This is a question for us to, because this begs the question: when you get a PhD, when you achieve a certain status in the government, in this instance, should you get a high-end luxury vehicle? Should you have items that show that you are a 10 percenter, I believe? Ray Alexander, I don't think you necessarily have to do that. I don't think you necessarily should do that. I think it's important. You have to look at your finances as a whole. And I think it's important to stay as liquid as possible. So I don't think, as a federal employees, until you become SES, because the 15s don't make a lot of money. The 15s aren't one percenters. So just because you're GS 13 and up, just because you're GS 13 to 15, that doesn't mean you're balling. That doesn't mean you're jet setting. Some might do it. I'd love to see what their margins are from month to month and what their credit scores are and how much money they have in the bank. But I tend to fall where these guys are falling. Aquateki says, well, let's see. Yeah, so Alonzo, let's start with Alonzo. Alonzo says, Ray Alexander, ironically enough, the wealthier people tend to drive the low key cars. Alonzo, and that's, yes, Alonzo, Ray Alexander, that's one of the lessons we learned from The Millionaire Next Door. Really, truly wealthy people don't wear everything on them. So you have to be careful with that. That's a slippery slope. And people get caught up in that. Let me see if I have that queued up. Since Ray Alexander brought this up, and Ray Alexander is keeping me on this stream longer than I want it to be. It's probably part of his master plan. Since Ray Alexander brought this up, and I'm sure Alonzo and Aquateki would agree with this. Geez, where is it? Oh, I know where it is. I have things in multiple folders here. Let's see. Ray Alexander brought up a number of really good points, as Ray Alexander always does. And after this, I really need to go. But Ray Alexander he's trying to keep me here. Since we've crossed into money and status, everyone, this is a series, and I'm sure Alonzo Hall would agree with this. This is a series of books that you should read. The Millionaire Next Door by Dr. Thomas Stanley. The series is all about what what we think and who we think truly wealthy people are and how they live. That series is about what we think truly wealthy and rich people are and how they live versus how they really are and how they really live. And a lot of his data shows that they live very modestly and they don't necessarily have luxury vehicles. They don't necessarily live the the baller lifestyle you see on TV. They're very meticulous with their money. They're very deliberate with their money, and in many instances, they're very frugal with their money. This is another good book, very, very short. It's by Georgette Miller Esquire. It's called Living Debt Free. Okay, so you want to stay as ideally as debt free and using very, very little leverage for your life as possible. Okay, you want to stay as liquid as possible. So I don't care if you have a BMW, a Mercedes, a Audi. For me, the most important thing is staying as liquid as possible. Okay, I'm going to read a few more of these comments, and then I'm going to stop. Sheet is back. Sheet, I don't know if Ray Alexander intended this, but Sheet, if you look at these comments here, maybe this is something we should all huddle up about again. Should your car, should your luxury items match your degree level and your job title? Maybe me, you, and Alonzo can hit that again sometime very, very soon. Alonzo says, and thank you, Ray Alexander, for this. Ray Alexander says, I'm going to wrap up with these comments. Alonzo, Alonzo Hall, the All-Star Advisor, not necessarily. People drive vehicles representative of their actual socioeconomic status. It's the poor that overextend themselves and purchase beyond their means. Ray Alexander, have you seen the article which or the data that shows that even there's a certain percentage of people who make over $100,000 who don't have money in the bank for a $400 expense? Have you seen that? So that suggests there are people who are 10 percenters who are still living above what they can afford and where they're supposed to be. Okay. Aquateki says sometimes rolling incognito is the better policy. I agree. Alonzo says Ray Alexander, usually using a vehicle as a status symbol is used as the latter. Alonzo says, yeah, I'm very familiar with the GS13 and it's not balling. Floyd Holt says there is a shortage of parts for car repairs. Keep this in mind when looking to buy a car in the moment. Yep. Ray says, talk to your friends that sell property and casualty insurance, and they will tell you that it's the lower middle class that overextend themselves. Alonso says at least for their daily driver, the weekend car will come out $100,000 plus supercars. Alonso says, Ray, I'm the one who sells property and casualty insurance. I think she's laughing at this dialogue. Ray says, are you genuinely an advocate of the millionaire next door lifestyle? Or is this is this one way of deflecting? Okay. You know, Ray, I think it goes back to the margins. Uh, Alonzo just said, and I'm a testament to this. A GS13 is not balling. So what you want to do, and yes, I did do some work with Mr. KS, may he rest in power, but you also have to make sure you have as little debt as possible, you got money in the bank, and you can survive when crisis hits. Or should I say when crises hit? That's what I would tell people. I think we get too caught up in titles, and I think we get too caught up in social strata. I'm going to do a stream on our kind of people, a retrospective stream on our kind of people over on my entertainment and media channel soon. But I think you got to be careful about getting caught up in those things. So yeah, I think that's the value in Dr. Thomas Stanley's book is that it's saying, okay, being a millionaire, being wealthy, it doesn't always mean that people can see your wealth. So I agree with his principle. It makes sense to me, especially when you think about that data that shows that there's there are still people who make $100,000 or more and they can't afford a $400 expense. Alonzo says, Ray, you're not wrong in terms of the high end vehicles, but they don't use them often. The lower income people do tend to overextend themselves. Aquateki, this is a good discussion. Aquateki says, I, for one, fully endorse the millionaire next door lifestyle. Sheet says facts. Uh, Alonzo says, prime example, I have a colleague who makes about 75,000 K per year and he drives a salvaged 2008 Lexus. Alonzo says, yeah, I'm in. Ray Alexander says they invest in homes in neighborhoods that appreciate in value, whereas the lower middle class overextend themselves in working class neighborhoods. Floyd Holt says the wealthiest people I know or met downplay their wealth. She, we hear, says long pause. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Akateki says, I like that pregnant pause. You know, but Floyd Holt says, I've seen plenty of videos on YouTube about people making $100 to $200,000 living paycheck to paycheck and facing homelessness. I know a few people like this in real life, stunting on social media without food. Alonzo says $750,000, Dr. Dunbar. Yeah, so the pregnant pause, to Ray Alexander's credit, that's a big deal. That's a big deal socially. Socially, people, and I think Ray's probably also coming from the dating aspect, the dating angle as well. People expect you to look the part. People expect you to look like your title. There's an image associated with being a doctor or having a doctorate or being a lawyer or being a high-ranking government official. There are images and archetypes associated with these titles, and people socially do expect you to look that way. So it is a big deal. And I was going to say something else, but that can also be a trap as well, to fall into that and looking and feeling the pressure to look a certain way and fit into certain crowds. That could be a trap door as well, because you also have to fund your retirement. You also have to There are other things that you have to do as well if you're responsible and if you have depending upon which market you live in. Yeah. I'm going to end with this. I'm going to end with this. This is also why it's important when Salchi comes up and he talks to us about what 10 percenters are, what 5 percenters are, and what 1 percenters are. Because if you just associate a GS-13, a GS-14, and a GS-15 salary with winning and making it, those relative to what people make in the private sector, that's not necessarily a lot of money. And when you think about what 5 percenters and 1 percenters are, yeah, GS 13 through 15, that's not necessarily a lot of money. You have to be smart with what you make and with what you earn. So I think I'm going to end on that. I didn't intend to go down this road. Ray took us down this road, but thankfully, thank you, Ray. Thank you for that. I think you just gave me, Sheed, and Alonzo another idea here. What's a 10 percenter? What's a 5 percenter? What's a 1 percenter? And what are the lifestyles like for each of those stratifications? Alonzo says, using vehicles as a status symbol is usually for older people. They're already in retirement and then they buy the new Cadillac, Mercedes Benz, etc. And then Ray says, yes, I'm talking about the attractiveness of how a man's appearance is in terms of how he dresses, his grooming, what he drives, and where he resides. All right, everyone. I'm gonna wrap this stream up. So Alonzo and Sheed, we have an idea here for another collab. Everyone, if you haven't subbed to Alonzo, you should consider subbing to Alonzo. If you haven't subbed to Sheed, consider subbing to Sheed. They talk about money regularly. I dip into the money periodically, but they talk about it every day and they say very, very insightful things. So here's another, since Alonzo's here, since Ray asked that question, here's another paradox, quagmire slash riddle. When I got my Kia Forte during the pandemic, my best friend congratulated me on getting my whip. Congratulations on your new whip. He congratulated me on my car. My best friend did not congratulate me on maxing out my retirement and getting my matching contribution. Okay. So when Ray came in, Ray asked me about the status of my car, but Ray didn't ask me if my retirement was fully funded and whether or not I was getting the matching contribution. Ray didn't ask me if I had my insurances in place. Alonzo, that's a stream right there. What are people asking you about? Which pieces are more important? Is it the luxury car? Is it you having your insurances in place? So it's interesting what people ask you about and what people laud you on. And it's interesting what people find important versus not important. Retirement accounts, insurance policies, you can't see those. Those aren't important. Your car is important. Your suit's important. Those are important. Akateki just nailed it. Tangibles versus intangibles. Which trips have you taken? Have you gone to Dubai? Have you gone to Santorini? Have you gone climbing the Himalayas? Those are things people can see. Those are things that people will give you social credit points over, not your insurances, not your retirement savings, not your index funds. Just some food for thought. And it's just one of the other contradictions in this whole money discussion. All right, everyone. Let's see. Aquateki, thank you for the generous Cash App. I always appreciate the support. If you're new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. And please leave a comment underneath this video if something mentioned here resonates with you. We just went off script and talked about some important aspects in the last half hour. If you're thinking about buying a car, let me know. If you already have a car, if you already have one of these cars, let me know. Please consider joining my newsletter. I am a writer and I am working on my own book project. Some of it's a basketball related story. Well, let me get to that. There's a 2-paragraph greeting there. This is for my newsletter, and there is a subscription button there at the bottom. Please, this link is below in the description box. Just entering your email address and you'll be a part of the club. If there's an issue with that order form or that sign up form, there's an email address right underneath it. There's the link to the newsletter there. I am working on a book project, and once again, I'm sure Ray didn't expect all this when he came and he mentioned what he mentioned, but it's a basketball story. And as a part of my basketball journey, it's very, very fascinating. All of this ties together. That's the wrong site. It's called The Engineers, a Western New York basketball story. It's about my high school basketball journey and the journey of my teammates and other kids from Western New York. But one of the underlying themes of the story is the exact same thing that Ray mentioned, and that's the theme of fitting in and being accepted by your peers. That never goes away. Even when you go to college, even when you go out into the adult world, and when you go into the professional world, that never goes away. That thought process, that concern, and wondering if people will accept you socially, that never ever goes away. That's something I battled with during this journey, and it's something that everybody continues dealing with, or should I say, most people continue dealing with when they launch out into the adult world. So that's my book project. I'm finishing up edits right now. Ray Alexander, thank you. Ideas come out of the most unexpected places, and I think when we talk about education and attaining status and attaining degrees, the money part, the perception part, the social part, that's something that when we're talking to younger people, we need to talk about as well. That's an aspect that was not well explained to me when I was coming up. Okay, everyone, I've got to go. Thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone who hung out in the chat. Again, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to donate something to the channel, that information is below in the description box. You can also leave a super thanks if you see fit. Stay safe out there, everyone. Keep an eye on your belongings and get this message out. Let people know. If you know someone who owns a Kia, if someone owns a Hyundai or a Hyundai with a standard key ignition, you get this message out. Let them know. If you know someone who's thinking about buying a car, let them know that this is going on, because there are people who cannot, there are people who are unprepared for a $400 expense. And something like this will blow certain people's lives over. So spread the word. Let them know that people are out here doing this. All right, everyone, stay safe out there. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye bye.